All right. So, problem I see a lot of beginners come into with producing is, they sit down and be like, oh, I want to make this type of song, or I want to make this type of beat, or any of that stuff. And to be totally honest, it's really hard when you're really new at doing this. Like, there's so much to learn. Um, so my advice is to just let things develop as you're working on them, because I really think that's the best way to learn. Um, like if let's just say, for example, you want to make a house song, okay? So to me, the first step would be, okay, let's find a cool kick sound, establish the four on the floor, boom, 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 all that stuff. And that could be a great foundation. Um, But don't be afraid to change that. Like, if you hear a sound when you're, like, looking through samples or, like, presets or VSTs or, like, anything really, and you hear something that just, like, ignites a whole new creative sphere, like, just run with that, and honestly, because a lot of the stuff we work on as musicians are never gonna see the light of day. I mean, most of the work is done in the room, and then the people typically only hear like 1%, like the smallest amount of the stuff, which is what you choose to release. And I remember when I was starting out, I met up with the producer in Florida when I was visiting my friend in Miami, and I must have been making beats for like 2 months. Like, I was so newly into it, and I was like, "Oh, like" what was his name? Sam. I was like, "Sam, like, how many Ableton files or projects do you have? Like, how many beats have you made?" And he just started laughing because he wasn't that much older than me. He might have been like a year or two older, but he at that point, he was already producing for, like, over 10 years. He started when he was, like, 11, right? And he just laughed because he was like, "Thousands, bro." He's like, it's just, like, what we do, like, this is our stuff. Um And again, the reason why I kind of want to talk about this today was because I really think the best way to learn is to just keep experimenting, Like, just keep playing with knobs, keep taking weird ass samples and flipping them around and putting them backwards and forwards and changing the pitch and changing the tempo and put weird ass drums under them, crunch them up, do like some weird, just do weird shit. Like, everyone is trying to make like a type beat or like a specific type of house sound, if we're just talking about like beats and house music specifically. Um, and again, those styles of music have foundations to them. And sometimes even, excuse me, specific sounds that will carry the genre. I mean, like with trap beats, like there's like the spins 808 is like a huge one. But again, I'm not saying like don't incorporate those things if you're trying to make something that is pretty genre specific, but like don't be afraid to branch out is kind of the point I'm getting to, is because that's what's going to make you really stand out in the long run. Like, um, and like that's just what's going to make art. It's like you doing something wrong, and again, I'm not like classically trained in music theory, but I have a handful of friends that are, and they always tell me that at the end of kind of learning theory, like the last thing they teach them is forget everything. And because you can't make something cool without breaking the rules. And then there's the argument of, okay, well, how am I supposed to know what rules to break and when I'm supposed to break them? Bah, bah, bah. And then it just keeps getting weird and shit. Um, like, that's the point. Ignorance is bliss. Like, if you have no idea what you're doing, like I feel both ways about this, but like I would kill to be like back in the position of like a beginner with I know this is like impossible, but like with the mentality I have now, because I feel like the whole trajectory of the stuff I would be making would be completely different. Um so yeah, again, I want to keep this one a little short because like don't be afraid to experiment. Uh don't be afraid to just let a project develop into something else. And you could also do this too. If you're in the middle of working on a track and let's say it's progressing very well to your liking, and it's following that mental agenda that like you kind of heard it as. But then you hear something and it just completely is like, whoa, this could really change this, but like I don't want to lose the core of this. Very simple. Save as a new project file, so you have that stopping point, of like before you found that sample and everything's still going to be there. And now you're just starting a new project with that foundation, then you could just go crazy with that. Let's say that one sounds terrible. It's possible. That's something we have to anticipate, and that's okay. But then you still have that fallback of the original file that you did. So again, the reason why I want to talk about this is because, for years I was very scared to experiment. I felt like I had to kind of fit sound, and that was the only way people would take me seriously if I sounded professional or like other people. But like, let your influences guide you, and don't be afraid to do something a little weird. Uh, yeah. All right, that's it. See ya.